Thanks, Mel. Thanks for the introduction, and it's great to see so many of you joining us this afternoon. Now, I know as economists, we like to keep this efficient, so I'll make sure it finishes well before the 5:30 planned finish time today. The first slide up there is the text, which is wonderful to see. The first thing I hope you notice is that we've maintained the blue and the green. So I always pick up the blue for my grade 11 and my green for my grade 12, or if you're doing grade 12 in term 4, you're picking up the green at that point. So we have maintained those colours of the blue and the green to keep that pattern going. We're just going to hand it over to you for a second. So I'm just going to open up Menti. I've got 2 questions for you to help me out today. So I will just change that slide. If you use that QR code to get into Menti. There we go. Sorry, I'm just going to the Menti slide. There we go. So you can all grab your phones, or maybe you can do it if you've got a second screen. And I'll go to the first question. Hopefully the code there will stay up at the top for you. So the first question is simply, how long have you been teaching economics? Just wanted to get an idea of the experience out there. Great. As expected, we're seeing a lot of new teachers coming into economics, and that's with the growth of the subject in the state. We are very lucky in the state of Queensland to see economics growing as a subject. New South Wales, of course, has been in decline for quite some time. Victoria is having a little bit of an uptick, which is great. And a lot of people are crediting, of course, the growth in our subject. Some will say it's the scaling, but I don't think it's the scaling. I think, of course, it's because of the wonderful subject that we teach. But of course, it does mean that we've got some teachers teaching out of subject, which can be really difficult. Economics can be quite technical. So it's great to have those of us amongst us who are new to economics, and I really hope that this textbook will help you with your teaching. So thank you for that. There's one more question. So teaching the QCAA Economics syllabus, of course, we're still all using the 2019 version. 2025 is on its way. But if you could just select those things that you think are most challenging teaching economics. That's great. Great to see, and it's so good to see those 2 standing out. Certainly for myself, when I started teaching economics with the textbook, it's the solutions. I just wanted the solutions to those little chapter questions, and often in a busy day, you really need those. So we've definitely dealt with that in this issue, which is great. Understanding that complex theory, that's one of, I think, always going to be a challenge for us. And I really think we've done that not only with the text that we had, but in improving it in a way that is really digestible to students so that they can really recall the content that we're trying to give to them in a very engaging way. Digestible, absolutely, aligned to the syllabus, and of course, we definitely want to engage students. That's almost a given we're teaching economics. Okay, thank you. I'll go back to my PowerPoint slide. Here we go. So what we're talking about here is how this edition will support you, and I really do think it absolutely will. the first thing is obviously it is aligned to the 2025 syllabus. So we did get access to that a little bit earlier so that we could ensure we were really aiming at that 2025 syllabus. For those who are, and there might be some of you who are very across the changes, or some of you who aren't quite across those changes. In terms of the content itself, there's not that many changes, but in terms of the assessment of that content, there are some significant changes in terms of the criteria. So you would be aware that we are now only assessing 4 objectives, and selecting is still there, it's just been moved into the other objectives. And in terms of that, the reorganisation of some of the content, that will primarily come into the Unit 3 and 4, so that second textbook rather than the first. But we've been ensured that we're across all even the minor changes that we've seen between the 2019 and the 2025 syllabus. Of course, one of the things that I know myself as a teacher and what our students want is some annotated exemplars of what a short response looks like. And of course, we've got some access to QCAA examples through the QCAA portal, but often they themselves are hard to decipher. So this new edition will provide those annotated exemplars to short response and extended response questions, and to really help students in crafting high scoring exams. So we've also have another author joining us for Unit 3 and 4 who's really going to help in that space, who's also got experience as an assessor with the QCAA. And so we can really show a student what is the difference, for example, in analysing the difference between an effective response and how to get to that discerning response, which is what our students want, but often they really just need it modelled to them to see those differences between what an effective versus discerning response looks like. So that's coming as well, which is great. Of course, we are already on version 1.1, so we've only just had 2025 released, but a couple of weeks ago there was that little notice that came through from the QCAA that we're at version 1.1. And so there were a couple of changes there in terms of, there was a little bit of an editing change, but there was actually a change to the IA1 ISMG, which adds comprehensive, the words comprehensive and significant in the comprehending criteria. So I do think that that is definitely a change we need to be prepared for. There was also within Unit 3, Topic 1, they've got comprehend as a cognitive verb in the subject matter. So we also across even the version changes for you, which is great. In terms of what you'll see in the new text, as you're flicking through, hopefully you notice a few things. The first thing, if you pick up a current 4th edition, is that you often just find a lot of words, and that can overwhelm both student and certainly teacher as well. So one of the first things we sought to do with this new edition is to really chunk the text a lot more. So hopefully that will be good for both you and students. And of course, we know as I go through, I've just added some theories as to why we kind of did what we did, but it looks visually a lot easier for students because it is chunked for them. And as you picked up in the survey earlier, we really do want those bite-sized chunks for our students so that it's really accessible for them. So in this page in particular, this sample you're looking at here, if you look at the current version, I think it's about 3 pages of just text. So we've really chunked that into each sector, the household, the production, government, financial. We've really chunked that down for them. So they have a circular flow, but then each one of the sectors is broken down for them. The second thing, and this goes to the QCAA assessment, of course, is that our students do have to be familiar and have practiced with the cognitive verbs. So we have made a really conscious effort to ensure that these are really clear for students, that they know what the cognitive verb is. And this will also be very helpful then when you get the solutions as well, so that students can see the different cognitions and the different level of cognition. So we know that recall might be a sentence or 2, but we know an explain response will be more like a paragraph, and it should potentially include an example or something to support it. So not only are they practicing the questions with the cognitive verbs, we will have those the support in terms of the solutions as well. The other thing you might notice is, so we have changed them to be named Check for Understanding, because that's certainly what we're doing in terms of formative assessment as you go along. We've also updated for things that the QCAA allows and doesn't allow in terms of assessment, in terms of, true and false, you can't have in a multiple choice, for example, all of the above. So those questions have been modified so that we're really ensuring that all questions are something that they might see in an internal or an external exam. The other thing you'll see is some updated case studies and data, of course, because we're in economics. And what we've also tried to do is include references and links for you, so that any stage, wherever you have the textbook, you could potentially find an even more up-to-date version. So showing students these different types of interactions with this data is really important, and certainly we're trying to build their capacity as they move towards that external exam. And we know from external exams, and there's probably a lot of us out there trying to prepare mocks for year 12s at the moment, is that when you look back at the QCAA examples, the QCAA are not using the RBA chart pack. And so we might use the RBA chart pack, and it's great to practice analysis. But what kind of data might students be seeing in an external exam context? So we've really tried to incorporate the different types of data, and in particular tables. Often students are required to interpret tables in that external exam. And we know, because we can see the results is on the public record, that students, that's something we definitely need to improve when we're teaching the skill of analysis. And then, of course, you need to analyze in order to evaluate. So we're giving them different types of data for different types for economic concepts that we're covering the whole way through. So you'll see that. The other thing you'll see is that we have tried to build more summaries into the text as we've gone along. So, a good check for students is to get to the end of a bit of a chunky text and be able to potentially distinguish between two different types of things. So in economics, distinguish certainly is one of our cognitive verbs, and often we're trying to compare things. We're also trying to present costs and benefits to students. So we have tried to display that in different formats. I've also really tried to include a lot of diagrams and graphs to have a more visual representation for students. We know that some students like to draw things to trigger their recall, and that can help them just that little bit more with their recall of information. You'll notice, I'm sure some of you out there will notice that the AD formula there is from the RBA. So they're the RBA little graphs that they use when they're breaking down the GDP formula. So we have also given a lot of links throughout to those external sites such as the RBA, and those explainers are, of course, really good. And this is, of course, what we're all here for. We all just want the teacher resources. So the teacher resources will absolutely be available. So we will have the chapter answers. We will have the economics in action, the challenge, and really importantly, I think what the number one thing, if I could ask for one thing in the textbook, is that check for understanding. Can we please have some check for understanding solutions? Because students really want to see what they are. And when you're teaching, you don't want to spend that extra 20 minutes of you writing them yourselves. You really want to check that homework quickly and give students the opportunity to check their responses as well. And hopefully with that cognitive verb and building up the levels from recall all the way up to explain, analyze and evaluate, they really start to see that difference in what they really need to be including in order to be able to hit those cognitive verbs. So they will absolutely be available. So they're going to be available on Nelson MindTap, of which someone else is going to take you through. I haven't seen Nelson MindTap yet, but from what I've heard of what's going to be available in there, it's a much improved version on the online version that we've had with the 4th edition. I know certainly when I tried to use the 4th edition with students, it was often hard to navigate in terms of the text. And then, of course, I think the solutions we had for the 4th edition was that one-page PowerPoint with the multiple choice answers. So that will be a lot chunkier, which is really good. So the way we've looked at those end of chapter questions, that will look quite similar. What you'll see again is more use of those cognitive verbs, which has meant, a lot of the questions have had to be changed completely, but we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And there are a lot of questions that you'll recognize, but we've just put them in a chunked and a cognitive verb way, so that students can see that really clearly. Sorry. The other thing you'll notice is in terms of the investigation research topics is I've really tried to change them up a little bit so that they can help you with your internal assessment writing. So they should be in a format, I couldn't say they're absolutely endorsable, but they would be well on their way to being endorsable internal assessment. And again, hitting those analysis and the evaluation. And I've tried to, of course, incorporate as much real world, because that's what we're trying to do with economics all the time, is trying to make it really relatable to students and things that they will be really interested in. On that note, there's, in particular, the equality chapter, you'll see some big differences in there. We do know, and I've certainly taught I've taught economics to girls and I've taught economics to boys. I haven't taught them together in the one classroom, but certainly the girls want to solve problems, as do the boys, but often you'll see different topics suit different. So I have tried to be a little bit more creative in trying to reach both girls and boys in the text. And I think, Mel introduced me, which was lovely. I think one of the first changes we made was that the first 3 pages in the 4th edition was a man, and then a man and a boy, and then a man and a boy. So we've mixed that up a little bit, so girls can see that girls can do economics. And of course, we are trying to reach girls, because we know the statistics from the RBA showing that only 1 in 4 now at a university level are taking up economics. And we need our girls, because we need them as policymakers at the table. So we hope that the text reaches them as well. So I think that is actually the end. Is that correct? No, I've got one more before I hand you over to David to tell you all the stuff about where to buy this fabulous edition. So the last link that I have is on Nelson MindTap. And again, I apologize, I haven't actually seen Nelson MindTap, but I know what you'll find on there. What you'll find on there is a teaching plan. So that's a bit of a week by week. It's a kind of a fortnight approach to how you might look to teach Unit 1 and 2, and then there'll be another one for Unit 3 and 4. And what that will do is it will break down the syllabus, and then it will break down the chapter in the textbook, so potentially what student note-taking might be happening during that time, and then also links to the activities that students can be doing that check for understanding, and also some worksheets. So there's certainly more than a couple, but for each chapter there will definitely be a couple of worksheets that you can download and give to students as a worksheet. Obviously they could be uploaded into a OneNote as well. Sometimes I just love going into class and saying, no laptops today, let's just handwrite on some worksheets. And of course that prepares them for the external, which is all handwritten as well. So those worksheets will be available in Nelson MindTap. So there'll be the ebook on there, Cogniro, which maybe David can talk to as well. But it's a fabulous new online platform from what I hear, where students can go and attempt some of the, for example, the multiple choice questions, and it will help them with what the solution is, and potentially also why some of the answers are incorrect, which is, a very big help, because certainly for the QCAA multiple choice questions, we understand what the solution is, but often we really want to know why the other ones, and usually there's that one other one that you want to know, why was it not that one not correct? So we can do that as well. The web links that I was talking about to that most updated data, so we can provide it to you updated as at now, but those web links for you that will be updated, for example, if it's an ABS, then it'll be updated on a quarterly basis, then you'll have those web links directly to that most up-to-date information, which we know is really important for our students. And that, I think, is my cue to hand over to David Truman. So David is one of the learning consultants at Nelson, and he's going to walk you through how to buy this wonderful new edition.
Fantastic. Thank you, Natalie, for that great introduction. That is definitely the idea. Yeah, look, as a teacher myself, I can see so much value in the pedagogy that's really built into these books. Particularly, I'm excited for those cognitive verbs, those questions that increase in complexity. And of course, we all want those modeled examples that we can find on Nelson MindTap. So if we can just flick to the next slide, we can talk about our pricing options. And I'll let you guys know about availability. So we can see on the screen here that we've got two different prices. We're very lucky in that we are able to offer both a physical print book as well as a digital offering, or we could do a hybrid of both. Whatever your school is interested in doing, we can help accommodate that. So I just want to make the point really clear. With the physical print book, that does come with an online access code that the students can activate for a course on Nelson MindTap, so that you don't need to buy them together. That physical book will come with a code. Alternatively, if you're not interested in the physical book, you can just buy the digital access, and you can see the prices on the screen there. As far as availability, our physical print book for units 1 and 2 is going to be ready in November this year, with units 3 and 4 around mid next year. And the digital access will be there to match that. Of course, we're really cognizant that the teachers want a lot of extra time for preparation. So if you make an order and we confirm your adoption, we can give you as teachers a little bit of advanced access to make sure that you've got enough time with the book to prepare your units so that you're all there ready to go. So we can provision that a little bit ahead of time, and that's no problem there. We are based on a class set adoption model. So that would involve a purchase of a class set of either the physical books or the online codes, or maybe a mix of the two, so that the students in your class all have access to the books. One purchase of a copy won't actually do anything, because we set you up as the teacher with a course, and the students will use those codes to join the course. So of course, if there isn't a course to join, those codes aren't going to do anything on their own. So we are based on a class set adoption model. If we could just flick through to the next slide, please. If you've got any questions about how this works, of course, we can clarify any of this. If you want to give us a call and have a chat, we do have our contact details coming up in a second here. I'll let you know who the best person to contact is. But of course, you want to know a little bit more about Nelson MindTap and what's on there. The summary from before was pretty good. It's access to the ebook. You'll be pleased to know that you as the teacher can get access to the PDF as well. There are videos, extra resources, those extra worksheets that Natalie was talking about. All of that additional content can be found on Nelson MindTap, and of course, including those solutions for you as the teacher. So all of the key teacher resources are going to be found online. It also includes access to Cogniro, which is a new tool that we've included. It's a customizable assessment tool, so you can create your own tests to assign to your students. And of course, those modeled examples for the questions that are given to them are going to be really useful for the students as well. As well as Nelson MindTap, you can upload any of your own resources. So if you've got some really great worksheets or some links to some good ClickView videos and things like that, you can upload that into Nelson MindTap as part of your course, and you can customize that however you like, and you can assign those to the students as well. So it's a really flexible platform. It's a lot better than what you might be familiar with Nelson Net. And it's going to be an all-inclusive platform where you can find all of the resources that you need. And I saw Luke, you in the chat earlier, a little bit concerned about some IT. Some of those resources are going to be easy to download and print out for yourself. So you don't necessarily have to be on the platform all the time. You'll find that the platform's very intuitive once you're on there. And of course, we as learning consultants can help you out with all of that sort of stuff. We've got great video tutorials and things that we can support you with that. The access, as I talked about, is a one-to-one student code. So the students would access that for one course, and that would last them through till the end of the year. If you want to, when the student gets into year 12, they can use that code one more time to look back at their year 11 content if they need to look at the previous textbook. So we've made accommodations for that as well. I just want to take an opportunity real quick. We are going to be doing a bit of a Q&A section just after this. So if you have any questions that have popped up in your mind, head over to the chat section there and we can answer some of those questions as we go. So as far as contact details, yours truly, David Truman. I'm based on the south side of Brisbane as well as the Gold Coast. And then Amanda Cunnington is covering the north side of the river as well as the Sunshine Coast. And then we split our regional areas between the two of us. So if you have any questions, feel free to email or call either of us. We can answer that for you, or we can put you into touch with someone who is able to answer one of the more tricky questions, perhaps something curriculum or syllabus related. We definitely have the ability to reach out and get the answers for what you need.